It's
6:30. We have a quorum, so at this time we will call the meeting in session. We'll start out with the pledge and then prayer. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
We have Reverend Nunn here that we're going to offer blessing.
Let's bow for a word of prayer, please. Our Father and our God, we thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your Son, Father God. We thank you for his life, Lord. And Father God, we ask that you continue to bless our nation, Lord. And of course, we believe you, Father, for revival, that you bless our community, Lord. And we decree and declare a healthy year. We ask that you bless Dr. Pollard and his staff, Father God, and you bless the board and the students, Lord. We decree and declare a wealthy year. For it's a mighty, matchless name of Jesus Christ we pray. And all the people said, Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome.
At this time, we're going to change the agenda a little bit, and we're going to jump down to the Toby Williams.
Well, now we're getting the student spotlight first.
Oh,
after the open conference.
All right. So we're going to do the student spotlight. All
yes.
right.
Well, tonight I'm pleased to announce and honor. We're going to honor Addie Carpenter. Addie feels real good. She had her wisdom teeth out Friday. On top of that, I asked her to come sing the national anthem. But she's not going to because she doesn't feel up to it. But isn't that horrible? The superintendent knows you get your wisdom teeth out. Why don't you come sing the national anthem? Addie's in the top 15% of her class. She's an excellent student. Yes, I know. She looked bewildered when I said that. She's surprised. She has sung for us many times at special events, from baccalaureate to convocation, in front of the entire staff, and doesn't appear to be nervous when she does it, and sings beautifully. So maybe in the future when you feel better, you can come sing for us, because I think these guys would love to hear it.
Yeah.
And, so we want to honor you tonight, Addie. We know you don't feel 100%, so I told Mom and her that we're going to honor her, take her picture, give her the certificate, and then let her vominos. But she, testament to her toughness at school today on Monday after having them out on Friday. Not all our kids would do that. So we're going to give you a certificate just for having your wisdom teeth out. Addie, if you'll come up here, congratulations. Let's stand. David, where do you want us? Right here? Board, do y'all want to stand and get around her like always?
It works so good when you stand in front of the G's.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Distancing.
All right, social distancing. So we'll move the little chair here. Okay. I got a new haircut. And I asked them, let me look like Justin Bieber. So Addie, come over here. You hold that.
Okay.
Work it. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Feel better. Thank you.
All right. I think Dr. Pollard now has a staff spotlight.
Yes, we wanted to honor somebody that y'all know very well that worked very hard this summer with lots of different projects, and that's Toby Williams. This was really just a ploy to get him to come to the meeting tonight so we could ask him a bunch of questions. But Toby, every summer is chaotic for the maintenance department. But this summer, with the high school renovation, a little bit of mold at the elementary, anything and everything that could go haywire went haywire, and Toby gets down in there with the trenches with those guys, and they work very hard. It's not uncommon when Toby's drenched with sweat, and he keeps his composure and is calm and patient, and everything is crumbling down around us, but he stays upbeat, and like, we're going to get it done. And so we wanted to honor Toby tonight. So Toby, get your certificate and your G. Have you got the G? Toby looks like Justin Bieber too. Toby and his guys work extremely hard.
Yes,
but
they do.
I wanted to honor not just the department, but him specifically, because he does a great job. So thank you, Toby. And he'll be back later tonight to present to y'all.
Public comments. Do we have anyone?
Yes, sir.
We have one signed up. Sarah, you're up.
All right.
You need a stool?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. But you're going to have to tiptoe to see me, so.
Whoa.
I'm here, I speak on behalf of several staff members and many staff members actually that are concerned with our COVID policies as they are today, how they changed over the summer. So I've got my little spiel for you, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Sarah Olvera. I'm a Spanish teacher here at Gatesville High School. I'm a Gatesville graduate and I'm a parent. I'm here to speak on behalf of myself and many of my colleagues to voice concerns about our current policy regarding COVID and school procedures. Per our current policy, staff at Gatesville ISD no longer receive COVID days for sickness related to the virus. Through trial and error, the last year has taught us the value of supporting our staff with COVID leave. It created a unique situation last year where affected teachers could quarantine, therefore protecting the largely unvaccinated student body, and enabled quarantine teachers to work from home. Most of you know that I am a parent of 4 boys who attend Gatesville ISD. My family contracted COVID on 2 different occasions last year, and we had to quarantine twice for a total of 20 days. One time was over the Christmas break. I don't know if that's fortunate or not, but I didn't have to use my sick days for the first time, the first quarantine. The second time we did. Thankfully, my family had COVID at the same time. We recovered together, which shortened the days that we had to stay out of school. I was very grateful to have the COVID days to use, and while we quarantined, I worked remotely, taking daily attendance, creating and posting daily lessons for my students, grading assignments, calling and emailing parents of all the failing students that we had, and continuing the regular duties of an educator. I used up my COVID days and was on the verge of having to use my sick days to have to continue to quarantine. My story is not unique. Several of my coworkers also contracted COVID, had to quarantine. Many of them are parents. Many of them had to quarantine for longer than expected when their children contracted the virus at different times. They used their COVID days, but were also docked sick and personal days when their children continue to have positive COVID tests, Many were docked personal days even though they were working remotely every day that they were out. They were taking daily attendance, creating and posting brand new virtual assignments, grading work, and contacting the parents of failing students, as was I. Although the vaccine has saved lives and will undoubtedly save more, the CDC has reported that the Delta variant is more infectious and is leading to increased transmissibility. It may cause more than 2 times as many infections as COVID-19. Per our CDC guidelines, children are currently not able to be vaccinated, which leaves most of our staff vulnerable to the virus through no fault of our own. Furthermore, if a staff member contracts COVID, they would have to quarantine for 10 days. And as I said, many teachers lost our sick days last year due to the virus, or simply don't have 10 personal days to use. Without indulging too much personal information, I want to mention that we have staff members right now that have put off needed surgeries due to their lack of sick days. We have staff members who are out right now caring for family members who are currently being hospitalized due to COVID. We have staff members who are single parents with large families who legitimately cannot afford to be docked their pay due to a mandatory quarantine. And we have parents who will struggle to put groceries on the table during these unprecedented and unpredictable times. I understand the board's concern and Dr. Pollard's concern about staff who abuse the system. Per TEA guidelines, we're no longer continuing with the mass contact tracing and the mass quarantining. This should drastically reduce the amount of fraud by dishonest staff members. The requirement of doctor's notes and COVID test documentation should do the rest. I want to point out that if you consider the number of children of staff members who are quarantined right now today, there are currently 17 children who will be immediately affected by your decision tonight. Children who attend Gatesville ISD. Our newly adopted vision is simply doing what's best for our kids. I believe in this case that changing our current policy is doing what's best for our students by doing what's best for our teachers. With your help, our teachers can and will do great work even in the face of a global pandemic. And when teachers do great work, our students reap the rewards. We would like the board to continue to consider the following. Reinstating 10 COVID days to be used by staff who have COVID or staff who must care for direct family members with COVID. Reimburse personal days that have been used due to COVID. Set guidelines for the use of COVID leave to reduce the abuse of the COVID policy. And consider opening catastrophic leave for staff with severe COVID cases or with dire need. I have worked for Gatesville ISD for 5 years. I come from a family of educators, and I know that I work for a school district that is a vital part of our close-knit community. I have seen that our board and our administration work hard to support our staff and our students. On behalf of myself and my fellow teachers, we respectfully ask that the board reconsider our COVID policies, that they consider the morale and the livelihood of the GISD staff and consequently the students who live in our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. I was telling Mr. Alderson before the board meeting started that I made sure this was kosher, but I contacted our lawyer and we can skip around on the agenda. And so since this is an action item way down towards the end of the meeting, instead of making them wait all meeting, we'll go to that right now.
Okay.
You're welcome. No, I'm
Thank you.
So we'll go to action item, if the board is okay with this, Marianne. E, under 10, COVID leave update. It's an action item. So like what Sarah was saying, back in May, we had, for a couple of months, a great span of time when we had almost 0 COVID cases. We got down to 0 and it was just like, man, we're doing so good. People were getting the vaccination. And so we were doing away with remote learning. We did away with the COVID leave. We thought, okay, we're back to normal. Well, and now, like Sarah said, we can't do away with it. It's too impactful negatively to the staff because they need the time to be able to take off. And like Sarah said, with our quarantining and contact tracing being more streamlined, I think that will help with, sometimes there were some cases where people missed 40, 50 days, and we're hoping that that won't be the case with this more streamlined version. So talking about, let's take it a piece at a time. So here in a minute, I would make the recommendation that we add the 10 days, the 10 COVID days. I'm a little bit hesitant to just yet start reimbursing retroactively all the days that were used beforehand, just because I don't know the accounting of all that, and just that's looking at a previous year, that sort of thing. There is another type of leave if you expend each year, let's say you had 0 days coming into this year. You've used them all up. You get 5 state and 2 local, so you have 7. We spot you another 10 for COVID. If you went past 17 days, there's another type of leave that just docks the cost of the sub. Is that right, Shane? There's like 20 more days, I believe, that where it's just the sub cost. So that helps too. Why I hesitate to use catastrophic, we used 1,750 COVID days last year for staff members. In the bank, we only have 1,761. So theoretically, if we'd used the bank for all that, we'd be out of leave. So there'd be no time for catastrophic for cancer, which strikes pretty frequently, unfortunately. Surgeries, we had gallbladders and appendicitis and things like that that just happen. And so we're kind of a little bit worried about using that just yet. I think if we go ahead and reenact the 10 days, the federal government stopped that back in December, and the board was very gracious to do that all the way through May. But I think that other organizations are having to reevaluate that for this coming year. I think other school districts are talking about it. And so I feel like that's a reasonable request on the 10 days, and then we just wait and see. If we have situations where teachers are doing everything right, hey, we're really trying to get to work here, but we've got big families, and we still use more than 17 days, and we're in doc, I think then we would come back to you and say, okay, we're going to have to reevaluate this again. We have right now 174 out of 400 staff members vaccinated. Like Sarah said, the Delta strand does seem to be more contagious, anecdotally speaking. We'll talk here in a minute. We have about 32, I think, positive cases right now. One thing that angered and frustrated the public was the TEA guidelines that they made some pretty firm stances, as far as they said, well, Texas school districts, you no longer have to notify parents of any COVID cases. You don't have to do any contact tracing. Really some pretty bold moves. I guess I appreciate the sentiment of the spirit of what they were trying to do to cut down on the massive amount of man hours that the nurses and everybody spent on that. But really that's, since it's not mandated that we can't do that, we're still doing it. So if somebody asks you, the public, that darn GISD, they're not contact tracing anymore. That's not correct. They're not quarantining anymore. That's not correct. So just case in point, we had a couple of students today in the lower grades. I typed up a letter, sent it home with the parents. Hey, a student in your class tested positive. In the really lower grades where they're with that class all day, we called. Ms. Streeter called the whole class and said, hey, just FYI, in case you don't get the letter, we wanted to call you and let you know there was somebody that was positive in the classroom. The dashboard on the website, if they ever want to know about, how many cases are there in GISD, they're trying to conceal that. Oh, no. All you have to do is click on the little icon at the top of the website, and I update that with the help of Shelley Harper very frequently. And so now we may post it at 9 a.m., and by 5 p.m. there may be 5 more extra that aren't on there. Now, we can't get that real time. I don't have that much time in the day to do that. But it's pretty dadgum accurate. And so help us with the messaging to the public that we're still contact tracing. It's streamlined. Last year if a volleyball player got COVID, we would have said, okay, varsity, JV, freshman, all of you go home for 2 weeks. We don't do that anymore. That was counterproductive and not healthy. But we do say, okay, who was sitting next to you? Did you spend the night with them? Did you eat after them? Did you eat together? Did you, okay, they need to go home too. And we called them up, and so we've been doing that as well. So we're trying, everything we did last year is in play this year. Now the sticky thing is the mask thing. I'm starting to get some pressure from the public that, hey, you need to mandate those masks. The only a little bit scary thing for me is that Abbott has kind of drawn a line in the sand. And through the court system, he's suing those big districts doing that. And they're vindictive enough to where they've already threatened funding. And so I'm a little bit hesitant to say, all right, Governor Abbott, I'm defying you. I think my better course of action would be, hey, if you want to wear a mask, if you're starting to get an uneasy feeling, put the mask on. Put it on. Nobody's going to say anything against you. In our kind of plea with folks on vaccinations, that is such a touchy topic that at this point, what I have encountered when speaking to people about it, we have cordial conversations, but their minds are made up one way or the other. There's no convincing now. Everyone has researched it, quote unquote. Everyone's got that cousin or uncle or whatever that they have talked to, and so now they have made a decision one way or the other. And so it's difficult to change minds at this point, unless sometimes if something really bad happens, one way or the other. So, after that long-winded diatribe, I don't even know where I was going. It's been such a long day, I'm not even aware exactly where I was going with all that. But I feel like that we're doing the best we can again this year, but I agree with the staff that, yes, there were some folks that have used it, but you can't hold the vast majority of people some consequence because there were some folks that kind of abused it last year. And like Sarah said, it cuts down on people saying, well, I was around so-and-so during lunch, I better go quarantine. Because we had some people like that last year. It was like the kid whose grandparent died 7 times in 1 year. Oh, I ate lunch with so-and-so, they had COVID, I better go home. Oh, I had lunch with them today, I better go home. And that happened, unfortunately. We printed out absence reports for employees this past year, and we had folks, lots of folks, 60, 50, 40. If you think about that, that's a lot of school. And somebody made the point to me, well, Barrett, I hope you're not more worried about money for supplies than your people. Well, no, it's not that. I'm more worried about that's a lot of missed instruction. A lot of time missed. But again, the vast majority of people do what they are supposed to do. They're trying to get to work. And so I think that granting the 10 days would be a great first step to trying to help the folks survive the Delta variant and go from there. I was trying to think if there's anything else about COVID in particular. Did the board have any questions about COVID Right now, we've got about 32 active cases. A lot of those are coming off the summer, but now there are some creeping up that have happened since we started. So it has triggered quarantining and phone calls and things like that. But
Is that 32 staff or students?
it's a combination. It's like 24 students, 8 staff, something like that. And again, it's a very fluid number because we'll add some to the list during the day, and then others will have hit their 10-day mark and they're coming back. And so there's this constant, just like last year, back and forth, you know. And so we try to give as accurate a number as we possibly can. Right now, it's about 32.
Sarah mentioned that our vision, our mission is doing what's best for kids. Now, would that be something that a teacher could choose to wear a mask in a classroom if the kids, especially those who are not eligible to be vaccinated? Would that be something well received by the staff, or would it not be?
Well received or necessary. I feel there's lots of things that I would do for my family. So if that's what it came down to, I would not be opposed. I can't speak for everybody on masks, but.
Well, as Barrett said, we can't mandate it as it stands right now, but do you think there could be a spirit of, if we're here to do what's best for kids, and we want what's best for our family, maybe I need to wear a mask when I'm in a group of kids, even if I don't wear one at Walmart?
I think that the people that are concerned with their being sick and having to stay out because of their families, or being sick and having to stay out because they got something at school, they're already wearing masks. They are. And I was actually surprised at the amount of students too and staff that are daily wearing masks at the high school. I don't know about the other districts. I mean, but
Of the campus.
the campus, excuse me.
I mean, you don't know where you get it,
Absolutely.
but that's just another precaution.
Nope, I
And
understand
another safety net kind of that would help. Again, we can't say everybody has to wear masks. We've tried that. It worked a little bit. It helped. But
Well, and the incentive for a lot of us, like for myself in particular, I wanted to get. I got vaccinated, and part of the incentive for me is, be done with those masks. Man, I get tired of those masks. I mean, was that a common? I mean, I think a lot of people felt that way.
yeah.
That was one reason why I wanted to get it. So, but like we said, there's just a lot of. The stakes are increasing. You know, we had this weekend a couple of young men in the community pass away from it, and we've had more people getting sicker. And it seems like we mentioned this at the last board meeting. The kids at this time last year that got COVID, they were pretty much all asymptomatic. We were thinking, golly, is this all there is to it? They're not even sick. Not this time.
It's different.
Not this time. Even the young ones, it makes them feverish, sick, sore throat, coughing, the whole nine. So it's definitely different this go around.
And I know you keep in touch with Dr. Winchell. You know that our hospital is full. I mean, full. Waco's almost full, and it's serious.
It is.
I have a question. When a teacher walks in the door to start the new year, do they not have a certain number of days of leave and a certain number of days
7.
personal and sick that start over at the beginning of every year?
7.
So they have 7.
5 and 2.
So if you had you used everything from the year before, you get 7
Okay.
to start with.
And then, have the teachers had an opportunity yet to contribute to a bank?
Yes.
And it's very low?
Well, it's not low in the sense that 1,761 days is in the catastrophic leave bank, which is great to cover what it has historically covered: cancers, surgeries, that sort of thing. But the thing I caution about is that I think COVID could drain it just like that.
So 1,000 somewhat, 1,000 and something people contributed this fall.
Or they could be
In the past.
Okay.
through the
Yeah.
year.
Historically.
And how many do we have
You get
employees?
one
Nearly
more.
2,800?
We have about 2,650 students and about 400 staff.
Now, does that count that you're giving, does that include this year's bank from the employees?
This number was given to me by Joyce Blanchard just recently. So that was the running total that
So
she
we
had.
haven't added this year's bank numbers.
We may have. We may have.
So if you gave 10 for COVID and 7,
You'd at least have 17
17,
days, a
and
little
then-
over 3 weeks.
and then how many for personal?
Well,
That's
so
it.
It's 2
That's
personal,
it.
5 sick.
The only other thing that we added was that we've always had is if you you were in dire straits and like, I'm totally out of days, there's that reduced leave where it's just the cost of the sub. It's like a hardship leave, and I can't remember exactly how many days, but you just pay the cost of the sub.
And do we have many teachers that have
20.
used up their 17 already?
For this school year? No, I don't think so. No, because but we do have some that have been quarantined from day one. As far as coming back.
Well, as of right now, we don't have 17, we only have 7 for the year.
Right.
So
And so
we're
there
giving
are
you what
many
we're
have-
talking about.
Giving the
doing-
10 tonight.
So we do have several that have lost their 7 already. And as a teacher, I haven't received an email about catastrophic leave yet, but they usually do that the first few weeks of school.
So some teachers have lost their 7 already?
Well, 10 days out with COVID. I know of 2 right now that have kids that got COVID at different times, and they're going to be out for 3 weeks simply because they're
Do
going to
you
quarantine with their
use
kids.
your leave for in-service?
If they were absent. Yeah. And I talked to one in particular today that had there's about 10 of the teachers that had already had COVID or that had big families that I emailed as just kind of a focus group. And they felt like, correct me if I'm wrong, most were in this room, that 10 was a good starting point. Another one had mentioned to me, well, can we work from home? Like, don't count against us, but be. And she and I both agreed the parents would view that as, well, you're letting her work from home. Can't Johnny take his Chromebook and go home and do remote learning? And then here we go.
Yes.
Now remember that standing ovation we got when remote learning went away? Remember that? Now don't forget that now.
Oh, we won't.
So, but it's a kind of a slippery slope. You see what I'm saying? So,
Could some of those who missed in-service make it up on a Saturday?
like a detention, D-Hall. I like it, Marianne. They wear a mask and come on Saturday.
Saturday school.
Yeah.
Used to be for
Yeah.
attendance purposes.
We're always looking for summer school.
What I'd like to do is, what we ensured last year was that no one got docked. Remember that? If you ran out of everything and then you're just on our tab, we're not going to dock you. And so I think we need to watch these folks very carefully this year to make sure if they start, okay, I used my 17, I was trying to do everything I could do right, now I'm getting docked, that we'll come back to you and we'll have to propose something else too. So.
The catastrophic leave works, once you donate, you're in. You don't have to donate again unless the catastrophic bank gets below a certain number.
Yeah.
Then
okay.
everybody has to donate again.
You don't have
Once
to do
you-
it every
once-
year?
If
Not
you use,
not anymore, so since
Oh,
it's
yeah, it used
tough,
to be
once
that
you
way.
donate now, you're in it until it dips below a certain level, and then you have to donate, everybody has to donate again.
or if you used a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Like if I used a little bit of it for appendicitis, then I need to donate another day the next year.
I would like to hear more about at some point, whether you just subtract what it costs for a sub,
Mm-hmm, yeah.
because that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, that would be a
It's
blessing.
something,
Yes,
it's something,
yes.
yeah. Subs cost what,
If we got
$80?
$80, $85 a day.
Yeah, and so if you make $200 a day, you'd at least get 120.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be another kind of like fail safe.
And I
If
think
they
when
went
we-
past
when
the
you were-
2.
when we were researching that, some people wanted the 10, well, why don't we get 10 days? And it's because if you get you either got the 10 days or you got, most districts were 20 days in the sub pay or 10 days. You didn't get 10 days and the sub pay. It was
Either or.
one or the other.
Okay.
And maybe that's something the staff may rather have just 10 days. I think they may just, I don't know. We also have a bereavement leave that a lot of districts don't have too. When someone passes away, you can take time off for that. So, any other questions or comments about any of that?
Anybody?
So my recommendation would be that we grant each employee 10 days of COVID leave for the 21-22 school year, include retroactively. So like if you already used your 7 or 8, you would get your 10 to cover it. once the 10 days of COVID leave plus all accumulated leave is exhausted, the pay would be docked for now. But I think what our agreement is, we'll watch it and see if it starts like people are getting penalized horribly and it's, you know, a bad situation. We would come back to you and say, okay, we're gonna have to need something else to help.
Or part of those ESSER funds for stuff like this?
ESSER funds is for a variety of different things. It could be for, but you can twist it to do just about anything you want, really. It was intended for like new HVAC systems, school buses with better air conditioning, interventionists to help the kids get caught up, things like that. So, but, you know, it could certainly help with something like this too. So that's my recommendation.
Okay, you've heard his recommendation. Is there a motion? Jimmy, second. Calvin, any more questions for anybody? Y'all want to say anything else?
Thank y'all for listening to us. We really appreciate it. I do come from a family of educators, and I know for a fact that other districts are not like this district. I know that we really are blessed to work here. So I just want y'all to know that.
Now they're going to vote against it. No, then you'll take back all those good things you just said. Yeah.
All those in favor, raise your hand. None opposed, okay. Don't forget to wear a mask.
Yeah. Guys, y'all are certainly welcome to stay for the whole thing, but if you want to leave and step out, you can. So,
I have a babysitter. So.
Okay.
Thank y'all very much. We appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thank you.
Thank all of you.
Thank all
Even you,
of you.
Lou.
Okay, so then you're set.
They all left.
Okay, I'll go.
Consent agenda?
I think
Oh,
Yes.
no,
Let's
we
see.
might need to ask also if there is any
Any
more
more public
public
comment?
comments. Okay.
There's none here. There was just the one signed up, so I think we're good. So we would go back and start normally. So we would be at number 7, notice of public meeting for tax and budget adoption.
Mr. Frazier?
So I am going to be filling in for Daryl.
Okay.
And so this is an easy little announcement here. Basically, you know, we had our last special board meeting where we kind of introduced the budget and had the budget workshop, and he went over some preliminary numbers. We need to now put this in the paper as part of a just kind of announcing to the public as part of the compliance type things that we always do every year. And then we'll have that final budget meeting towards the end of August. So we like to have 3 meetings in August. Feels good. And but an official notice will be published in the August 18th issue of the Gatesville Messenger. A copy of the notice is presented to the board and relates to that special August 30th meeting about tax rates. And remember, if we see somebody, we tell them it's going from $1.16 to $1.06, a whole dime down. And so this is just an informational item. No action need to be taken, but if y'all have any questions, let me know.
Okay, so we'll go to number 8, consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Charles, second. Calvin? Okay. Any questions about any of the items?
We had that one that we put in there every year about the 4-H, the 3 teachers being the adjunct faculty, those 3 guys that we've worked with forever. And so just FYI.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, information items.
Yeah,
Is
first
Nancy
up.
doing this one?
No, I think
Okay.
Scott.
He's fat.
I like the way Scott comes from behind the curtain. Could that be more ominous? He's got the mask on. And then there's a policeman behind him. So. Scott, come on up.
Officer Stiles. This is an informational item. Good evening, board, and Mr. Bieber. I just want to introduce our new SRO sergeant, Officer Stiles. He comes to us as a retired senior corporal from the DPS and various other jobs that he's held in law enforcement. He's been with us for 3 years, and this creating a sergeant position is one step closer to making this department well solid and well established in our district as more than just policemen on duty walking the perimeter. There's a lot more other projects that we want to incorporate with our SROs, more teaching involved with them, and so having a lead SRO is going to help us be able to do that and have good structure with our SRO program from here and forever on. So this is just an introduction in case you hear about Officer Stiles. If you want to see him, it's every morning at the elementary on the porch, and he's out there opening the doors for the kids. He's got that grandpa syndrome. He just loves it around the little kids. So I'm speaking for you, but if there's anything you'd like to say to the board, you're welcome to.
I've been an officer for 32 years now. I was a patrol officer in Coppers Cove, and then senior sergeant in criminal investigations for the sheriff in Williamson County, and then they recruited me into the highway patrol. I spent 22 years there and retired here in Gatesville as a senior corporal over Bosque, Coryell, and West Bell County. I was kind of an odd duck. I had 3 sergeant areas there, which is abnormal for the highway patrol for a corporal position. They talked me into coming out of retirement and coming to work for the school, and the way I've been looking at it is I went from having 2 granddaughters on day 1 to having 602 granddaughters. So this is a really, really good job for an old cop. I enjoy it. I come to work an hour early every day, and I stay until I'm done, and I have a ball. So thank y'all for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the best story about Gary is when there was a car accident there, and the first thing the little girl did when she got out of the car is she rushed to Gary.
Oh.
Yeah, all 3 of them. They came to me. They bypassed their mom and everybody else. And,
Yeah, that made Gary feel good.
Yeah. You're special.
Yeah, he is. Gary, appreciate you. Thank you.
y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Toby? For the phone
Toby?
system in high school?
He took his award and left. Toby! He took the certificate and went home. Can you imagine? Just any updates on the phone system in general?
I thought that was a ruse to get him here.
Yeah.
So he's like, really? So he's not working on the air conditioner.
That's okay.
That's okay.
We can, and do y'all, basically any updates with the phones? So we've got old phones, new phones.
Yeah, no, the phone system that we put in a few years ago before the renovation started has the POTS line, Plano telephone line that we can use if the internet goes down, but everything inside the district is over the internet. So we can communicate going out, and any calls that come in, they go to a switchboard and then it gets directed to your campus. The safety feature on the phones is that an administrator can go to any phone in the district and can call a shutdown. You punch in a code and you don't have to go back to the office, you don't have to radio the office and start that process. So any phone in the district can start that process. So that was kind of the main push behind updating all the phones. When Toby was in here, he's like, are the phones down? What's wrong with the phones? There's been a few glitches with the high schools changing, because when you change a room, you have to reconfigure the phone to go with that new room. It all has to be assigned. But all that gets worked out. Whenever we start moving, changing rooms, we get that fixed pretty quickly, because that's one of the first things we check if the phone is operating. If the intercom goes down through the main PA system, the phone can also be used to communicate directly back to the office. And so it's got a lot of safety features involved, with the added plus of being able to make phone calls from your classroom as a teacher and not have to wait your turn at the lounge or in the office to make those calls. And so it's been a good bonus for us to have a phone in every classroom.
Thanks, Scott. Did y'all have any other questions about phones in general or anything?
Sounds good. Works. And now the new cell phone policy at high school.
Speaking of phones, so the high school and really all the campuses, but especially the high school, worked on a new cell phone policy, because last year with the remote learning and basically all of the devices being out, we loosened up as far as cell phones in general, and so students had them out, and sometimes they weren't using them for what they should be. Let's just be honest. And so We've highlighted in yellow what is new with the cell phone policy. And it starts getting, here's the meat of it. The communication devices, cell phones, would be kept out of sight and turned off except during the following times. Morning, before the 7:55 bell, during lunch, when they're having their lunch, the cafeteria, and after school. And so it goes on to say we're not responsible, and then it talks about cell phones being confiscated. And so it goes through the offenses, subsequent offenses, how it keeps kind of escalating. Just to talk to you a little bit about, how's it been going? Very well. Very well. Marie and Liz, they've all commented on how every classroom has a little shoe cubby, or like a shoe cubby type thing that they use to put the phones in as soon as they walk in. They haven't had any issues with it. They've had to get on to a few kids in the hallway that maybe with the passing period they want to whip it out, just force a habit to look, and they're like that, and they've had no big brouhaha. They just put it away, and so of course we're 3 days in, still possibly the honeymoon period. Liz said, we've seen students attempt to make it down the hall with the phone in hand between classes, and a couple have attempted to squeeze in a phone call between class, but all have been compliant with reminders to put the phone away. The designated phone holders are a tremendous help. So, so far so good, but the thing that we always worry about too is like when there's a substitute, an aide, and so we've tried to reiterate to the kids, any adult, if they're telling you to put away the phone, make sure you put it away. So far so good. It goes to show if you set an expectation, the kids will rise to the occasion for the most part, and you just have to keep reminding them, and they're getting in the habit now. They said the neat thing, and I saw this today at the high school cafeteria, kids talking to each other, laughing, smiling. They weren't just, it's been good so far. Do y'all have any other questions about the cell phones?
Are you still in trouble about the cell phones? Calvin?
He mentioned to me the other day he's still mad I saw him in the car.
Okay.
I just said put it up, be quiet.
Yeah.
Back to school.
This is just a kind of a generic thing we wanted to have here just to kind of go over how have things been going in general. So rough estimates of enrollment, just from the second day to the third day, our enrollment went up from 2602 to 2647. So really until Labor Day, they keep on coming in. And so we're hoping that we'll capture more and more kids. SPED is up to 415 kids.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of kids. And so, but it was confirmed with us that, our SPED department has a good reputation. One parent even told that to Pam or someone in particular that said,
it was at our meeting at junior high.
yeah, we've heard good things about your SPED department, that's why we came. And so that's a testament to our people. Of course, it takes a lot of hard work by the staff to accommodate that many. Bus drivers, extremely short. If you want to drive a bus, we sure could have you. Come on and make some extra money. It's hard to find people to drive a bus. We try to bend people's arms and get them to come here and do it, but it's just difficult to find people. So if you know someone that might like to do that, even if it's just the morning or just the afternoon or just periodically, we sure could use them, even as a substitute driver. And even folks to ride the buses, like a bus aide. I mean, that's a lot less taxing than having the responsibility of driving, but even it's difficult to find those folks too. It's hard to find people to work in general. You can see that in restaurants, wherever you go. It's just we're in dire need of people. The new high school, I think the kids are really enjoying it. There are some bugs, they're intercom, ACs, different things like that. There's still bugs. They're just trying to get them worked out. Some days a light will, automatically go off in a room. One day I was in the conference room and it just got dark, and then we tried to wave and then it came back on, and so there's little bugs here and there, but luckily Joe Stone with Masonic, he comes and checks on us and is in close communication with Scott. But all of our athletics, band, extracurriculars, everything's up and going. I mean, kids have been working out with 2 days since the beginning, and so we're really in full session. We've already talked about all the COVID stuff. I guess the only other thing is that arrival dismissal, there's always the woes of the long lines and just trying to get all your kids here. I've got a kid at 4 of the 5 campuses. Arrival is a nightmare. but it's just part of trying to get them all dropped off. But it will smooth as time goes on, and our poor SROs, they try to experiment with different things in the streets to try to get traffic going this way, or try no left turns, just different things to try to get things going better. And so I think each day it's gotten better. So we've been pleased with that. Anything else about just back to school in general, Linda?
I want to ask about SPED. What happened with the legislature with SPED and dyslexia?
Well, it's funny, they did a roundabout thing. They didn't make it into like an actual House bill, Senate bill, but they went through SPEC and said, well, State Board of Education certification, whoever is going to do dyslexia testing ultimately is going to have a...
They made a mandate where they had to go in, and they're amending the dyslexia handbook right now. And so everything they wanted in that bill is going to be put in through the amendments to the dyslexia handbook. So it's coming, but we've been very fortunate. We've been able to find, we're already working in that direction, so we've been able to find staff members to start preparing for that, so it's good.
Remember, we had the extra LSSP, the extra diagnostician, and the counselor at intermediate. Remember the ESSER funds? We have found the LSSP, we have found now the diagnostician. And so the only thing left is the intermediate counselor. So Bridget's so hardworking, she doesn't really need it. So. But she's still looking. So if we find somebody good, and just by miracle, those other two just kind of appeared. And Pam interviewed them. They were great candidates, experienced, and so we've been very fortunate.
Okay, we're going to action items. Mandatory increase in adult meal lunch prices.
So Texas Department of Ag, they're always coming out with new regulations. It's Daryl and his department are constantly trying to keep up with everything. And so, you know, we had set back in February $4 per adult meal. TDA said no, it's got to be at least $4.15. And so Daryl said, from a financial standpoint, we really probably need to make it $4.25 for adult meals. And he said we sold around 1,750 last year, so that would be around $438 in added revenue, and also basically to cover what TDA is wanting us to cover. So his recommendation is to increase the adult lunch meal price from $4 to $4.25 effective immediately in order to comply with TDA's updated guidance.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion? Linda, second. Cheyenne. Any other questions about the meal prices? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
Thank y'all. Shane's up with the CTC MOU.
Okay.
Sorry, I would have had this to you last month, but been waiting on it a little bit, so we'll make it quick. Yes. I wouldn't even had anything this month. Can you believe that?
Are you asking for money? Just kidding.
No money. This is good. This is only $100 a class.
I'm just joking.
Anyways, this is just to update our dual credit agreement MOU with Central Texas College, CTC. And so we offer classes in speech, English, math. Trying to think of what else. I guess that's it. Oh, government and economics are a couple of the others. So this is just continuing our relationship with them. But we talked about on-ramps the last time, and so we're going to continue as University of Texas increases offerings there. We'll probably continue to increase our offerings in that program, which could eventually cut out with. It already is cutting out a little bit of what we're doing with CTC, but but we're still offering classes through CTCs. So this is just to continue our relationship with them. So.
Are these classes where the kids go into the library and do it on computer online?
No, sir. Our kids are they're taught by our teachers now. So like speech is taught by Miss Mabry. She's the actual professor.
Okay. And she's doing this through CTC.
Through CTC, and our teachers are actually like the TA. If they don't have their master's in that subject area, they're actually the teacher's assistant teaching under one of the professors at CTC, and so it's been a lot more difficult for them to get staff members to us, and so that's how we run those courses now. But yes, sir, none of them are done online. Now, if they're done online, they'll be in the like Chris Carroll does economics. They'll be in his classroom. So, does anybody have any other questions? So I'm just recommending that the Board of Trustees approve the dual credit agreement with CTC so that our kids can continue to take advantage of these dual credit offerings.
I'll make the motion. Second?
Good program.
Charlie, okay. Any other questions for Shane? We should keep him up here longer. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. The school board meeting time.
Yes. Now, y'all don't feel pressure to do this. If this isn't unanimous, especially Cheyenne, I'm thinking you've got young kids.
I'm all in.
You're all in? Let's just start doing them at 3:30 then. So, I don't know why
I was worried about her.
we've never considered it, but with 5:30, because we had that last 5:30 meeting, we're like, man, this is nice, getting out at like the sun was still out.
5 o'clock in the morning comes early.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
Okay,
There
so,
is
Just
a
have to be
consideration
hot
here, I think we need to stop and think
Okay.
about it. Tonight's an unusual night, we have several people here, most of the time there's not any.
right,
But when people do come, most of the time they have something that's extremely important to them, they've taken time out. Most people get off work at 5.
right.
If they have to go by and pick up their child at a daycare, get home, and some people work and they really want to clean up and change clothes and get here, 5:30 is a rush for them.
Yeah.
We'll still be here at 6:30. I mean, they could still do it then. Yeah.
As long as we allow them to do that, we haven't already passed the speaker's forum.
Well,
They sign up.
yeah, that's a good point. You know, we've typically confined them to open comments, but if like, say for instance tonight, since the topic was COVID leave, theoretically, we could have just had Sarah wait until we got to that topic and then she could speak then.
But they may show up and it's not an agenda item.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I'm just,
Would you
I don't have a problem
compromise with
coming.
6?
I'll come anytime. I mean, I'll be here at 3:30.
Well-
Do you think 6 might be better than
Well,
5:30?
I'm just thinking, it takes a little time to go by and pick up your kid and change your clothes and get up here. And I think we need to be aware of it.
Well, I'm thinking if they know in advance, they can prepare. Now, failure to prepare is preparation for failure.
I understand, but they have to take off work to get here.
Well, they could
They
come
could-
later.
yeah.
We could hear them. It wouldn't have to be at that point.
That's fine. I think it was a point that need to be considered.
Right. Can't be too early because then
Yeah.
they could miss it. Yeah, if it was before the 5 o'clock hour, they couldn't, because they'd be at work. So. Well, Jimmy, do you feel good with 5:30? You think 6 or?
I'm gonna go with you.
We just have to be cognizant of, okay, if somebody comes rushing in at 6:05 and, we've already been at it for 35 minutes and they were desperately wanting to speak to us, we might need to that may be something I ask our consultant about. Could they still sign up and speak?
Yeah.
Well, something else is if they would contact you and
Right.
let you know.
Yes. Like I knew
Later
Sarah was
on,
coming.
if we need to make an adjustment.
Yeah.
This can come up again.
Yeah,
If 5:30 doesn't work.
yeah.
I know there are some city councils that have their speakers forum last,
Mhm.
or always the 5th item
Yeah.
or whatever,
Right.
and the public picks up on that, those that are keeping up with anything. So I just want to make that point. We need to be
Yes.
considerate of our public.
Right.
Because we all volunteered to run for this thing. We knew the restrictions.
Mhm.
If a parent is upset or has a concern about their child, they don't even know what time the school board
Right.
meets or when. They'll call up here and find out, well, it's at 5:30.
Yeah.
Well, I work in Waco. I'm gonna have to take off work to come there and talk to you.
Yeah.
And I know if I worked in Waco, 6:30 would be tough,
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we need to think about that.
Mhm. Well, like y'all said, the key might be just being flexible in the open comments section.
Yeah.
Did you put that later in the agenda?
We could. Yeah. So that way, maybe midpoint or something, so that way we don't torture them with the whole meeting.
Right.
because they'll view it both ways.
And
They
so-
also,
And if they show up early, well, like we did tonight, we can move it up.
Yeah.
We got some flexibility.
Yeah.
You don't have to, the agenda's not
Yeah.
set in concrete,
Yeah.
we can move.
yeah. Well, then I'll make the recommendation that as long as we stay cognizant of the public and open comments and them being able to get here, that we recommend that the regular board meetings down at 5:30. So special meetings 5:30, regular meetings 5:30 from here on out, unless there's some major snafu and we need to change it back.
Okay. Who wants to make that motion? Calvin? Second? Jimmy? I can only vote with one arm. Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
Calvin's gonna make a motion to meet
Carries.
once a quarter.
Any waiver of purchasing requirements due to emergency?
I think that's our last one, yeah, because we've already done the COVID leave update. So last time when I mentioned the mold situation, boy, a lot has transpired since then. So we had the professional cleaners come in, and then darned if about 6 classrooms didn't fail, or 6 areas, 5 classrooms, and then there. But the bad thing was it was one of the common areas in front of the first grade hallway. So 8 of the first grade rooms had passed, but you couldn't get to them because the commons area was still not mold safe. So we were sweating bullets. At one point, it really looked like first grade was going to start not on Thursday, but some other day. We got dangerously close to having to do that. But the cleaners came in and cleaned again and sent it off to the lab for the testing. It all cleared. So the poor teachers had about 24, 36 hours to rush into their rooms, and some of those rooms were just in sad shape because furniture had been tossed and walls had been dinged, and I mean it was just everything had been ripped off the walls, and it was like starting from square one. And but they worked and worked and worked, and Toby and his maintenance guys came, and spouses came, kids came, and they worked, and those rooms really looked fantastic. I thought they looked fantastic by Meet the Teacher, and so they're in good shape now in particular. But going back to the cost and kind of, remember we mentioned last time, because it was an emergency, we didn't go through the whole RFP process. I will make a point though, we still got bids. It wasn't like we blindly accepted, okay, whoever first did, we had, and the bids were drastically different. One bid for cleaning was $54,000, and another one was $197,000. And so we were judging that very carefully as well. So the overall cost still is around that $75,000 range. Now it's just kind of basically reimbursing the elementary with rugs and different things that got tossed because they just were not salvageable. But it's basically around $75,000. We made the claim to the insurance company, and as predicted, they said no, it's not covered. And so we'll have to start with our legal team on the next step as far as our consternation with the AC company and the humidity levels and really what kind of spawned that whole issue. And so the breakdown approximately was about $1,500 for the protocol, $54,000 for the cleaning, and another $19,500 for the testing. And so again, that equals to around $75,000. So it's my recommendation that the board waive those competitive purchasing requirements due to the emergency mold situation and approve the fund balance amendment to pay for the mold abatement project. So Darrell will use fund balance to pay for it. But board policy CH local is where I got this from, states that in the event of a catastrophe like the blizzard that we had, if something horrific happens, the board delegates to the superintendent the authority to contract for replacement, construction, repair of the school facility or equipment with accordance to the law. And so we had to because it was a health and safety issue. Couldn't open the building with the mold in it. That would have been, and surprisingly, people did watch my video. I didn't think they had, but most of them came up to Keegan and said, "Yeah, we watched that guy on the video about the mold," and so they knew that. Yeah, but they were very understanding, very understanding.
I think it was Justin Bieber.
They thought it was Justin Bieber, and so.
Keegan, is that building cool?
Some spots. Yeah, we're better, but we still have some rooms that are not
Not cool.
operating like they're supposed to. So Most of our rooms are in better shape, but we still have some that are spotty. So Toby's been working with us daily trying to get those back on. So we're still working through some issues.
So the recommendation, you just said that. Do I hear a motion? Okay, Linda. Second? Charles? Amen.
Charles or
Chuck? Any more questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay. I think,
All right.
since we
And,
already did COVID leave.
yeah,
That's
we
it.
already did that one. So, it is 7:31. We will go into executive session under Texas Government Code 551.001.